Is there an eternal life after death?
Yes.
Would you agree though?
I don't.
Would you agree though they need to be accountable for their?
Everybody should be accountable. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you compare you to Stalin?
To give you an example, in a human life.
Putin to.
This for the Mansur?
They're not.
Actually, you're not supposed to invite towards Judaism.
This is similar to Hinduism as well. You have to be born into this faith.
Oh, is it? So you're born into Judaism?
So
They, to some extent, yes, but not. It's a different concept than being born into it. It's a concept of. It's from the Bible. I think Micah 4. It says, and I forget the exact words. We follow our religion and other people follow theirs. It doesn't.
But the people who don't follow Judaism, would they go to hell then?
Judaism doesn't believe in hell.
Judaism doesn't believe in hell?
how do you explain God's justice?
I'm not here. I'm not a theologian.
How do the theologians in Judaism explain it?
That it's based on free will. That people have free will to follow or not to follow. And
Because if God is sovereign and just, and some people with their free will disobey God and do not follow God and do things contrary to, opposite to what God considers to be good and lawful for people, then how can their end be the same when they don't go to
because Judaism believes that everybody is capable of eternal life. The question is, from the time of death until the soul rises, how long is that?
Is there an eternal life after death?
Yes. That's what
So that eternal life, someone who was a rebel against God, disobeyed God, did all the bad things, and if there's no hell, where do these eternal souls go? Because justice demands.
There is something right there. I'm not.
But
I'm not
would you agree?
theologian.
Fine. Would you agree though?
I don't.
Would you agree though they need to be accountable for their?
Everybody should be accountable. Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's what I would question.
Everybody should be accountable.
But then, if like the brother's asking, that if someone passes away and they've done wrong, then how are they accountable?
There is a concept similar, and I use the word only as descriptive, not in a religious or theological sense. Something like purgatory. Not that you're tortured, but something like that. And the time that you are in purgatory is related to your goodness in life.
I mean, this is how the Quran alludes to this Jewish belief when they believe even if we were to go to hellfire or something, it will be only a number of days. Only a little number of days.
Yes, I remember that.
This is what the Jewish people believe.
I don't study this.
But if you think from a justice perspective,
Justice is different.
Justice is universal. From a universal justice point of view, someone who has done so much evil by disobeying God, for example, and going against Him, just going there for one day punishment in hellfire, whatever that is, it's not a just retribution. For example, in a human life,
How do you compare you to Stalin?
to give you an example, in a human life,
Putin to
someone who steals a lollipop and someone who commits murder, you can't just say, you know what, fine for both of them is 10 quid, £10 fine.
I agree.
It's not
I agree.
What was your name again?
appropriate.
Henry, nice to meet you. My name is Nabil.
I'm Mansur. Nice meeting you, Henry. Yeah. So you seem to agree with a lot of what we discussed, which is the principles of Islam.
Islam is rooted in Judaism.
Rather, Islam is, if you think about it, Islam is rooted in truth. If you think about it that way, Judaism was rooted in truth. But if they do not continue to follow the truth and follow the messenger that comes to them, then they will be in a
I'm
problem.
not an expert.
Do you know what he means by that?
I do.
Because in our perspective, in Islamic perspective, when God commanded a people in the beginning, let's say those who call themselves Jewish today, they listened. But at some point, we believe they stopped listening to the next message, as would be, the update, as would be. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's what we believe. So that, I mean, like you said, otherwise, questioning what you stated in the beginning, as part of the faith, how are me or Brother Mansur supposed to save each other? How are we supposed to save? Or how if we asked you, how do we save ourselves, Henry?
I think the traditional answer of Judaism is we don't look to the world to come. We look to what is going on now.
So basically, they're not using appropriate prioritization of what is important.
Jeremiah said, "Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. But let him who glories glory in this, that I am the Lord who practices kindness and righteousness and justice in the earth. And these things I delight," and that's what you should follow.
Sure.
So it's not looking to the world.
It sounds quite nice, but people who do not live up to justice on this earth, you need to know what's going to happen to them. So that is the consequences of having a hellfire, a day of retribution, and a judgment for them. So that means the whole idea of a limited purgatory where you'll be just cleansed for a while and that's you're okay. It doesn't balance with God's concept of justice.
I have not studied.
Of course.
But it's not about studying from what you understand now. If you have a belief system, in which it's only a temporary punishment, like if you murder someone,
Temporary could be in 2,000 years. Temporary could be 5,000.
But when it comes to eternal punishment, that 2,000 years is nothing. So if you have a murder committed and if you have a lollipop being stolen and the punishment is only like £20 fine or £10 fine or something like that, you would say this doesn't balance with the magnitude or the severity of the crime. Severity of the crime against God, such that you became a rebel against Him, it's not something that it's so simple and easy in the sight of God. And this is why God, sending every prophet and messenger, He warned them of a torment and a punishment that is going to be everlasting in hellfire. This is a message God sent to all prophets and messengers. If Judaism somehow diluted to this, to saying, only concentrate on this life, forget about the hereafter and so on.
I am not an expert.
No, not talk about expert. From your understanding of what you believe in.
My understanding is, I don't want to say.
What are you defending? Your position or the Jewish position that you're not expert in?
I'm not defending either.
Why?
Henry, what Brother Mansur is trying to say, Henry, is in plain English, as a logical human being, just like myself, I'm walking through this park and I hear yourself talking or I hear Brother Mansur talking and he gives me the advice of Islam or I heard the advice of Judaism, I would only judge it by logic, isn't it? Should I continue following it? Should I continue following it if I found it illogical, for example?
Well, there's a difference between logic and belief.
Fair play.
And people can have belief that is not logical.
Yeah. Well, would God?
Any beliefs that are not logical.
But would God ask us to believe something?
Was taken up to heaven.
It's not illogical. How is it illogical?
Do you believe he was physically moved?
Let's understand. How is it illogical?
Because it would defy the laws of physics.
The laws of physics that we know of, that we have a limitation of our speed, right? But when God intervenes in His laws of physics, we call them miracles. God created these laws, and there are other laws which are operational, which may not be like switched on and off like you have a genetic switch. So these are the laws within this universe God operates, but you don't normally see them. So that we call them miracles, which is defying the ordinary understanding of the laws that are operational, the physical laws in the universe. So God can have a law that says, okay, fine, you can have someone put in the fire and then fire would not burn. It's like a temporary suspending that physical property of the fire and not burning. So these are not illogical. These are
doesn't burn.
No. What we expect normally a fire to burn. But if God temporarily suspends the property of the fire through divine intervention, how is that illogical? That's divine.
Henry? But mean, Moses split the sea.
There's some.
Brother,
They called it a miracle. The current, the present examination of that is that it was a period of very low tide.
Okay.
And it appeared to be the parting of the sea, but it was at that moment where it was very, very low. For example, Jesus walking on the water. Apparently there were stones. They found where it was.
This is a retrospective, just secularist justification. But how do you explain Moses speaking to God? How do you explain that scientifically?
If you believe it.
No. Did that happen?
Moses, I don't know.
It's not like you don't know.
I don't believe.
Using the same principle.
I don't believe that Moses. They say Moses was the only person who knew God face to face.
Yeah.
But did God speak to him? How would you explain that scientifically, the paradigm that you are using to understand in a secular perspective the Exodus?
I think that he had a feeling and he translated it to the people who were following him.
Can the Creator speak to us if he wants to?
I don't believe so. But
is it conceivable that he can?
I don't. Some people might believe it. No. I don't believe it.
Is there anything illogical from the Creator to communicate with his creation?
If you believe in a creator who has that capacity, I don't.
Is it conceivable to believe that there is a creator?
Some people can believe that if they want.
Some people. It's not some people. Okay.
I can believe the moon is made of green cheese.
So do you think Henry? Do you think this universe exists without a creator bringing it into existence?
I do.
Okay, so what is your explanation behind the existence of this universe as it is? You must have some really justifiable explanation.
Billions and billions and billions of years. I'm not a physicist. I can't.
But if you believe in a proposition, you have to have some explanation, right?
No, Henry. What Brother Mansur is asking you is that logical perspective. So, for example, it's just normal. It's fine. I can believe in Islam, but you have the right to question me that what.
No, but I don't want to question you. You are.
No, that's fine.
Sincere in your belief.
That's fine.
You believe it. If you're another.
We're just exploring. If I have an interest in Judaism, for example, Henry, I would logically question. Or if I had an interest in Islam, I would logically just question Brother Mansur. You follow this religion. Why do you follow? No, just okay. It's fine if you're not asking why.
My parents did it. And my grandparents. And my great-grandparents did it.
Our parents are foreparents. The Quran says, even if they're wrong, are you going to follow them? This is a reprimand that our Creator makes in terms of following blindly traditions which could be wrong.
That's in the Quran.
That's any
people say, Henry, that some people say, like for example, an atheist will come to you and they'll say to you, I'm an atheist because my dad was an atheist and my dad's dad was an atheist. But that's not a logical argument, is it? It means he hasn't really researched anything. But then I personally would actually take a step back and think about what am I actually following without questioning.
How many people?
Let's not think about other people.
Investigate how they are brought up.
Why don't you focus on yourself and then say, look, this is what I believe about the universe. About the universe. If the universe didn't have a creator, so it itself has to explain its origin. So did it always exist? Number one question. If it didn't always exist, it's another question. So if you think it always existed, it has inherent properties. What are those inherent properties the universe had if it always existed?
I'm not a physicist.
You don't have to be a physicist to ask these questions.
You have to, no. I mean, they've now seen through black holes going back hundreds of billions of light years. I can't fathom that.
But if we have a belief in which the universe doesn't have a creator, we have to make sense of our belief. Like, okay, the reason I believe so is because of X, Y, and Z. So when we explore and scrutinize this X, Y, and Z, imagine somebody says, you know what, I'm the King of England. Someone can have that belief. But we need to
be in the psychiatric ward.
Why do we assume it could be Prince Charles himself who believes he's the King of England, right? So we can't assume someone is deluded automatically.
No, he's not deluded. He's brought up
right. So there's an evidence to back his claim.
On his head with a lot of jewels.
Do you agree? There's an evidence to back that he is the King of England. Right. So if we have a belief system that we take on board, like Henry, you have about the universe, then it makes sense sense, naturally, to say, okay, is my belief coherent? Am I believing in things like someone else believes other than Prince Charles that he's the King of England? We need to really assess that and say, okay, do I hold a coherent belief system? Or do I just believe in...
Well, most people don't do that.
We're not talking about most people. Henry, you and me and, brother there. We have to assess our positions. Because if we have a position...
I'm late.
You're late?
I gotta go.
Fine. Do you...
Sorry, I was supposed to read the Bible.
Have you...
I promised my wife I'd leave.
Have you read the Quran?
Have I read? Only briefly.
Yes. Why don't you continue to read the Quran, because the Quran actually delves into these questions, these existential questions, someone who has an origin of a Judaic tradition as well, and then you can connect to it.
Thank you. Nice
You take care.
Good luck.
Okay?
Henry, thanks very much.